tax freight train is bearing down on your retirement. To protect yourself, you'll have to harness the power of zero.
Hi there, and welcome to the Power of Zero show. I am your host, David McKnight, best-selling author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You Lurk, The Volatility Shield, and most recently, Tax-Free Income for Life, all of which can be purchased in single copies on Amazon or wherever you buy fine books, or in bulk at davidmcknightbooks.com. You can give me a follow on Twitter at McKnight & Co, at McKnight & Co. And of course, we have our documentary, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming, and you can stream that pretty much wherever you stream movies. If you are looking for someone to help you navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket, why not head over to davidmcknight.com? Happy to hook you up with one of our elite POZ advisors, among the very best tax-free retirement planning specialists in the country. And if you're an advisor who's looking to level up your game, head over to powerofzero.com and opt into our free 3-part video series, and we'd be happy to have a talk with you. All right, today we're going to be talking about an article written by Brett Ahrens, and the title of the article is Retirees with Annuities Have More Fun. And so that is the source material we'll be using for today's podcast. And of course, the link to that article can be found in show notes. So I want to read some select parts of this article and then give you a few thoughts of my own. It begins by saying a new report says retirees who convert their savings into guaranteed lifetime annuities effectively double the amount they are willing to spend each year on themselves and their families. The reassurance that they won't outlive their savings lets them open up their wallets and have a good time while they can, argue researchers David Blanchett and Michael Finke. Blanchett is the head of the retirement research at QMA/Prudential Financial, an insurance company, and Finke is a professor and chair of economic security research at the American College of Financial Services. They continue to say, we find strong evidence that households holding more of their wealth in guaranteed income spend significantly more each year than retirees who hold a greater share of their wealth in investments. Marginal estimates suggest that investment assets generate about half of the amount of additional spending as an equal amount of wealth held in guaranteed income. In other words, retirees will spend twice as much each year in retirement if they shift investment assets into guaranteed income wealth. Of course, this is something I touched on in my book, Tax-Free Income for Life, that when you're governed by the 3% rule, you can never take more than 3% out of your stock market assets in any given year if you want to have a reasonable expectation of having your assets last through life expectancy. When you have guaranteed lifetime income, that amount can, in many cases, be twice as high. Okay, so your money is just going to last longer and you can spend more money along the way. They reach this conclusion by studying the investments and behavior of 725 households in the University of Michigan's long-running health and retirement study. They looked at retired households with more than $100,000 in savings and spend more than $25,000 a year. Effectively, they were comparing the spending habits of those with a guaranteed income of, say, $50,000 a year and those with a pile of savings big enough to buy a lifetime annuity from an insurance company that would pay them a guaranteed income of $50,000 a year. So in other words, they're using an apples to apples comparison. They're basically saying, let's compare people that do have a guaranteed lifetime income of $50,000 a year per se. And then let's look at people who have enough assets that they could generate that kind of guaranteed income, but choose not to. Okay. All right. So what type of annuity are they using in the study? Typically, when you see studies on guaranteed lifetime income, what they're talking about is the most simple form of guaranteed lifetime income. And that's what we call a single premium immediate annuity. It's effectively an insurance product that protects you against outliving your money. Those who die young end up subsidizing the incomes of those who live a long time. All right. It goes on to say the result report multiple studies is that middle-class retirees end up playing too much defense. They typically spend well below their income instead of using their lifetime savings to enjoy their senior year. They end up trying to protect their money. So this is very much in line with what Tom Hegna, who is the leader in guaranteed lifetime income in the industry, he appeared on my podcast a few months ago and basically said the same thing, that what happens is people get into retirement mode, they get into this overly protective mode of I don't want to spend my money. I just want to protect, protect, protect. So what happens is they don't get the country club membership. They don't get the new boat. They don't take the trip around the world. They just want to protect, protect, protect. So then what happens is their kids inherit all their money. And what do their kids do? They go buy the country club membership. They go get the new boat. They go take the trip around the world. So what happens if you don't have a baseline of guaranteed income is you're basically in fear mode throughout retirement. You're just afraid of spending too much money. You're afraid of spending down your assets in advance of life expectancy. And that affects your ability to spend your money freely and without the fear of running out of money before you run out of life. So the article goes on to say that studies have shown that the typical middle-class retiree holds far less of their money in annuities than you'd expect. So basically what the article is saying is much of what I discussed in Tax-Free Income for Life. If these guaranteed lifetime income annuities are so great, why do so few of Americans have any money at all allocated to these types of annuities? I mean, the study after study after study shows that there's longevity benefits, there's health benefits, there's psychological benefits, there's happiness benefits, all associated with guaranteeing essentially your living expenses throughout retirement. It's creating a shelf, a floor, if you will, that guarantees that no matter what happens in the stock market, rain or shine, your basic living expenses will be taken care of. In this article, they say financial experts have spent decades grappling with this apparent puzzle. And to me, it's not a puzzle. In fact, I address this enigma in my book, Tax-Free Income for Life, which again can be bought on Amazon in single copies or in bulk at DaveMcKnightBooks.com. There's three basic reasons why people have a hang up with single premium immediate annuities. The first one is basically liquidity. When you purchase a single premium immediate annuity for guaranteed lifetime income, you're essentially handing over a chunk of your liquid retirement savings to an insurance company in exchange for that stream of income that is guaranteed to last as long as you do. So that you're going to have, say, a chunk of, $500,000 that disappears off your balance sheet. You no longer have liquidity on that money, and that gives people a lot of heartburn. The second thing that gives people heartburn as it relates to single premium immediate annuities is inflation. Typically, SPIAs, single premium immediate annuities, in their most basic form, lock you into a monthly payment. And while that payment may be perfectly sufficient to satisfy all of your living expenses in the here and now, because of the inexorable effects of inflation, 10 years from now or 15 years from now or 20 years from now, it's just not going to be sufficient to meet your basic lifestyle needs. And so there's a couple of alternatives that the industry offers to placate that need for inflation-adjusted income. There's two things that you can do. You can buy a SPIA with an inflation rider, which basically says as time goes on, your income will adjust to keep up with inflation. And the second thing that you can do is you can buy more income than you need in the here and now with the idea that you will grow into that income. So for example, let's say to close your income gap, you need $30,000 of guaranteed income. Maybe that's on top of your Social Security. But you also know that $30,000 is not adjusted for income. So what you may do is you might buy a SPIA that gives you $50,000 per year of guaranteed income. And like I said, while that income, you won't need all of it now, you will eventually need it. And so at some point in time in the future, it will be sufficient to meet your needs. Well, what's the problem with those two approaches? They require even more loss of liquidity in the here and now to be able to realize it. So that feeds into objection number one that people have to SPIAs. It's the liquidity objection. In other words, to solve the inflation problem, you have to compound the liquidity problem. And this, of course, compounds the heartburn for most Americans. And the third thing that I discuss in my book, which is the reason why most people never enter into these types of arrangements, is simply this idea that your heirs are going to be disinherited from your financial plan should you end up dying prematurely. Now, remember, most people enter into these propositions because they feel like they've got that Methuselah gene. They're going to live forever. They're going to beat the insurance company at their own game. They're going to outlive all the statistics and beat everybody else in the risk pool, and they're going to turn the tables in their favor. But what they don't realize is that there's what I call the Mack truck factor. What if 2 years into your single premium immediate annuity, you step off the curb and you get hit by a Mack truck? Guess what? All of that money that you gave to the insurance company completely disappears from your balance sheet, and your beneficiaries get completely cut out of the equation. Okay. And that can be another source of heartburn for a lot of Americans because nobody wants to disinherit their children. They just rather deal with all of the downsides of the 3% rule, knowing that should they die prematurely, their kids won't be disinherited from the plan. So what's the answer to all this? What has the industry done to help resolve all of these concerns? Well, I talk about this in Tax-Free Income for Life. They've listened to all of the studies. They've listened to the focus groups. They sort of understand what's driving at the heart of why people aren't entering into these types of arrangements. So they've created another type of annuity called a fixed index annuity, which goes a long way towards addressing all three of these problems. First of all, how does a fixed index annuity address the liquidity problem? Well, basically, you're not required to take your guaranteed income right away. You can take your income 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or never, okay? And the period between now and when you actually elect your guaranteed lifetime income is what we call the deferral period. It's the period prior to you electing your guaranteed lifetime income. And during that deferral period, you have 10% liquidity. Now, you may say, hey, Dave, 10% liquidity is not full liquidity, but I will tell you this, it may not be full liquidity, but when you compare it to the 3% rule where you can never take out more than 3% of your liquid stock market portfolio in any given year, 10% is a smorgasbord of liquidity, if you will. So once you elect the guaranteed lifetime income, you don't have that liquidity, but during that deferral period, you do have that liquidity because you're not required to draw the guaranteed lifetime income right away. How does the fixed index annuity solve the inflation problem? Well, once you elect your lifetime income, your income increases based on the growth of an underlying stock market index. Might be the S&P 500, might be the Russell 2000, could be a complement of indexes. Now, the caps are basically what they do is they give you the growth on these indexes up to a cap. And should that index go down in any given year, they guarantee that you'll never lose money. Now, the caps on these indices these days aren't terribly high, but it isn't beyond the stretch of the imagination to think that you could have an income growth that would keep pace with inflation. And so fixed index annuities have a built-in mechanism to help you keep a pace with inflation. And the last issue that the fixed index annuity helps address is that of the inheritance. So we know that should you step off the curb two years into your fixed index annuity contract and die, your kids will receive whatever your initial investment was, plus the growth, minus any income or distributions you took off of it in the intervening 2 years. So there's never that sensation of an asset disappearing off your balance sheet. There's never this idea that you are having the company disinherit your heirs from the equation. Now, one thing that this article did not discuss, which I bring to the fore in my book, Tax-Free Income for Life, is that if you decide to do a fixed index annuity, you have to have the ability to do what I call a piecemeal internal Roth conversion, PIRC, piecemeal internal Roth conversion. Let me tell you why. There's two huge risks associated with holding a fixed index annuity in your tax-deferred bucket. Number one, when you take distributions out of a fixed index annuity in a tax-deferred bucket, that counts as provisional income. It counts against the thresholds which cause Social Security taxation. Guess what? Let's say because of your distributions from your fixed index annuity in your tax-deferred bucket in form of an IRA, let's say that causes a $5,000 hole in your Social Security. How do most Americans go about plugging that hole? By taking more money out of their tax-deferred bucket in the form of their liquid stock market investments. And so I've done the math a lot of different times in a lot of different ways. And I basically have concluded that when you pay taxation on your Social Security, it can force you to spend down all your other assets 5 to 7 years faster. That's a huge issue. And most people don't realize this. And I'd say 99% of advisors are cementing that guaranteed lifetime income within the tax-deferred bucket without realizing that they're causing Social Security taxation in the process. The second thing that piecemeal internal Roth conversion can address is tax rate risk. Remember, let's say that you're drawing, $50,000 per year out of your tax-deferred bucket in the form of guaranteed lifetime income. While that pre-tax income is guaranteed. The after-tax income is not guaranteed, and that's subject to the ebb and flow of tax rates over time. And I believe strongly that we are in a rising tax rate environment. Therefore, this is a problem in an ongoing way for people who cement that guaranteed lifetime income within the tax-deferred bucket. So when you have a piecemeal internal Roth conversion, what the fixed index annuity allows you to do is during your deferral period, before you elect your guaranteed lifetime income, you can perform a internal Roth conversion, or what I call a piecemeal internal Roth conversion, which means you can step that money from the IRA into the Roth IRA within the annuity and get all the money shifted over, stretching that tax obligation out over a period of time so you can stay in a low tax bracket, but getting all the heavy lifting done before tax rates go up for good. And then once you get all that shifting done, you can elect that income out of the tax-free bucket. Because it's coming out of the tax-free bucket, it's not exposed to tax rate risk, and it doesn't count as provisional income. So it is not forcing you to spend down all of your other assets to compensate for Social Security taxation or an increase in tax rates over time. So this, of course, begs the question, can you have a happy, fun retirement without all of the downsides of a traditional single premium immediate annuity? And I think that if you combine all of the advantages of a fixed index annuity and a piecemeal internal Roth conversion feature, I think you can have a happy, fun retirement. And I think you can all the while mitigate all of the risks that we've talked about today, namely liquidity, inflation, disinheriting your heirs, as well as tax rate risk. All right, folks, that's the show for today. Once again, if you're looking for help mitigating tax rate risk and longevity risk from your retirement plan, head over to davidmcknight.com. We're happy to introduce you to a member of our elite POC advisor group. And if you're an advisor who wants to learn how to integrate all of these concepts into your practice, head over to powerofzero.com, opt into our free video series. We'd be happy to have a chat with you. Thanks, everybody. We look forward to chatting with you same time next week.